The truth about Harley-Davidson's biggest disasters has been hidden in plain sight, until now. Behind the roar of American steel and the image of freedom are motorcycles so flawed they nearly destroyed the brand's legacy. These weren't minor missteps. They were catastrophic failures that drained wallets, shattered trust, and left loyal riders questioning everything they believed about Harley. If you've ever thought about owning one of these machines, or if you already ride one, you need to see what's coming. Number 7. Harley-Davidson Street 750. For many riders, the dream of owning a Harley started with an affordable step into the brand, and the Street 750 looked like the gateway machine. On paper, it was Harley's answer to the growing demand for light, nimble motorcycles built for urban riders and commuters who wanted the badge without the bulk. This mid-sized cruiser carried a reputation of accessibility, yet it ended up earning a far different image once riders put serious miles on it. The entry-level cruiser carried a Revolution X liquid-cooled V-twin engine displacing 749 cubic centimeters, producing 54 horsepower and 44 pound-feet of torque. Braking used a single front disc and rear disc, with later versions offering optional anti-lock braking system support that owners described as inconsistent. Suspension came from telescopic forks and dual rear shocks, giving only a basic ride feel. Wet weight landed just over 514 pounds, with a seat height of 25.7 inches. At a starting price of $7,599, it was affordable, though riders often reported quality issues that undercut value. Despite the numbers, many riders quickly discovered the compromises baked into this machine. Fit and finish became a recurring complaint, with paint inconsistencies, misaligned panels, and rattling components drawing attention away from the promise of a simple entry-level Harley. The engine, while efficient for city speeds, often felt underpowered on highways, leaving riders pinned in lower gears when trying to merge or overtake. Electrical issues also surfaced, particularly when exposed to wet weather, undermining confidence for those who depended on the bike for daily commuting in unpredictable conditions. Another recurring issue involved overall durability, which failed to meet expectations. Marketed as an urban-friendly warrior, the motorcycle quickly gained a reputation for problems that undermined confidence. Riders reported brake components wearing prematurely, engines overheating in summer traffic, and suspension parts breaking down faster than anticipated. What was supposed to be an affordable, approachable choice often turned into an ongoing expense. Owners who had chosen the model for its low entry price soon realized they needed to budget additional dollars for maintenance and repair costs that felt disproportionate. When placed side by side with rivals such as the Honda Rebel 500 or Yamaha Bolt, both praised for reliable engineering and long-term refinement, the Street 750 ultimately fell short on lasting value. This model stands today as a reminder that affordability alone cannot secure loyalty from seasoned riders or new enthusiasts. The bike may have introduced some to the Harley badge, but it often failed to keep them in the family. The next motorcycle on this list shows how even bold attempts at conquering new riding segments can stumble when ambition outpaces execution. If you're enjoying this breakdown of Harley's most regrettable machines, hit that subscribe button to show support. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these models you think was the biggest mistake. Number 6. Harley-Davidson Baja 100. Among the more unusual chapters in the company's story sits a small dirt machine that tried to take on the booming motocross world. It carried the hopes of broadening horizons for a brand known almost exclusively for heavy cruisers. Yet what should have been a breakthrough became a glaring example of overreach. The Baja 100 carried a two-stroke engine displacing 98 cubic centimeters, delivering 12 horsepower and 9 pound-feet of torque. Stopping relied on drum brakes front and rear, and riders at the time noted frequent fading under heavy use. Suspension came from telescopic forks and twin rear shocks, while dry weight measured 180 pounds. Seat height stood 32 inches, and the starting price was $475. Consumer reports described the tall stance as intimidating for beginners despite its bargain cost. Despite the numbers, this motorcycle never managed to satisfy its intended audience. While Japanese competitors built reliable dirt machines with effortless climbing power and proven frames, this one lagged behind on every metric. The modest output meant it struggled on hills, and the power band felt weak compared to rivals. Riders often joked that it seemed better suited for gentle trails than for the rugged competition scene it was marketed toward. For a brand famed for torque and rumble, delivering a machine that sputtered and wheezed was a disappointment few forgot. Problems did not stop at the lack of muscle. Reports of cracked frames after modest trail use spread quickly through riding circles. Instead of withstanding jumps and rough tracks, the frame too often became a liability. Cooling concerns made matters worse. Owners found the motor overheated after only short bursts of demanding riding, leading to breakdowns on trails where reliability mattered most. In those moments, it was not the roar of an American machine that echoed through the woods, but the frustration of stranded riders hoping for a rescue. The marketing approach added another layer of frustration and confusion, especially among loyal riders. By chasing entry into the dirt segment, Harley risked diluting its core identity and abandoning the strengths that had carried the brand for generations. Japanese manufacturers had already perfected lightweight, agile off-road machines, leaving little room for a heavy competitor. The hallmarks that Harley fans valued, comfort, stability, and commanding presence, were absent, replaced by compromises that satisfied neither group. Longtime owners voiced skepticism, questioning why resources were being directed toward experiments rather than reinforcing proven touring and cruiser platforms. Within the dirt community, the reception was even harsher, as experienced riders found little reason to choose the bike over established, battle-tested alternatives. This machine remains a telling reminder that reputation alone cannot guarantee acceptance in every corner of motorcycling. For riders expecting power and grit, it served more as a caution than a triumph. The Baja 100 now sits in history not as a celebrated collectible, but as a warning against straying too far from core strengths. The next motorcycle in this countdown reveals how even when building within the company's home turf of touring machines, poor execution can still undo the best of intentions. Avoid the mistakes Harley made, ride safe and smart. Upgrade your gear today to make sure you're always ready for the road ahead. Check out the link in the description. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250. When the company decided to step away from its long history of cruisers and tourers, it launched a machine meant to battle the giants of the adventure touring segment. The early version of the Pan America symbolized both ambition and risk. The adventure-focused machine relied on the Revolution Max engine displacing 1,252 cubic centimeters, producing 150 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque. Dual front discs and a rear disc with lean-sensitive anti-lock braking system provided control, though early riders reported the electronics occasionally felt unpredictable at low speeds. Suspension came from the adaptive ride height system, with electronically managed forks and shocks, giving it a wet weight of 562 pounds. Seat height ranged from 31.1 inches down to 27.8 inches, while the starting price was $17,319. Many owners appreciated adjustability, but worried about long-term reliability. For a company long associated with heavyweight cruisers, this was an extraordinary departure. Riders who tested the Pan America expected strength and versatility equal to competitors like BMW's GS series or KTM's adventure platforms. On paper, it promised exactly that, with an impressive horsepower figure and advanced electronics. Yet in practice, early adopters uncovered glitches that revealed Harley's inexperience in this new category. At low speeds, handling often felt jerky, an unnerving trait for a bike meant to crawl through technical trails and city traffic alike. Some of the software-driven features, including the much-advertised adaptive ride height, occasionally failed, leaving shorter riders unsettled when the machine refused to lower itself at a stop. The design also split opinions. For riders who loved the rugged and minimalist style of long-standing adventure bikes, the Pan America's angular, almost futuristic silhouette felt at odds with expectations. While the front fairing offered wind protection, its bulky appearance did not resonate with riders looking for stripped-down, go-anywhere machines. Added to that were reports of loose fasteners and components that struggled under the demands of off-road punishment. This was a sharp contrast to the expectation of bulletproof durability that defines the adventure touring class. Another major concern was trust, something that no price tag could overcome. Even though the motorcycle entered the market at a competitive cost, seasoned adventure riders were reluctant to invest in a first-generation Harley attempt. Many worried about the availability of replacement parts, the lack of proven aftermarket support, and lingering questions about long-term reliability. These doubts proved difficult to shake, especially in a segment dominated by Japanese and European manufacturers with decades of refinement. Dealers reported showroom stock sitting far longer than expected, gathering dust instead of miles, as cruiser loyalists struggled to embrace the new styling and purpose, while adventure-focused riders questioned whether Harley could realistically match the durability and performance already perfected by its established rivals. Though updates in later years improved reliability and rider confidence, those early models remain a cautionary example of how ambition must be matched with proven execution. The Pan America showed flashes of brilliance but stumbled under the pressure of unfamiliar terrain. The next chapter in this countdown highlights a machine that tried to deliver drag strip speed on public roads, yet found itself stranded in a no-man's land between style and practicality. Number 4. Harley-Davidson FLH 1200 Shovelhead. Among the many touring machines of the 1970s, few carried the promise and the burden of the FLH 1200 Shovelhead. It arrived with the look of a highway conqueror, wrapped in classic styling that spoke to long miles across America. Underneath that image, however, was a machine that quickly gained a reputation for being more temperamental than dependable. The Shovelhead engine displaced 1,200 cubic centimeters, producing 58 horsepower and 65 pound-feet of torque. A single front disc paired with a rear drum handled braking, though riders complained about weak stopping distances. Consumer reports from the era highlighted constant oil leaks that overshadowed the engine's modest output. Suspension used telescopic front forks with twin rear shocks, while wet weight measured 760 pounds. Seat height was 29 inches, and the starting price in the mid-1970s reached $3,400. Owners often felt the low cost was offset by relentless maintenance and poor reliability. The problems revealed themselves quickly. Oil leaks were so common that riders began referring to the bike as the mobile oil spill. Gaskets often failed, and keeping oil where it belonged became a near-daily battle. The heavy frame added to the frustration, making low-speed maneuvering difficult for even experienced hands. Owners often recounted the challenge of guiding such weight through traffic or tight parking lots, where every pound seemed to fight against them. For riders who expected the thrill of the open road, the reality too often involved staring at stains in the garage or coaxing the motor back to life after another roadside breakdown. Heat was another persistent enemy. Long-distance runs would often end prematurely with the engine cooking itself under stress. Overheating not only sidelined rides but also damaged other components, creating a cycle of repairs and expenses. Mechanics at the time described the Shovelhead as a steady stream of work, requiring valve adjustments, gasket replacements, and constant tinkering to keep it rolling. For many owners, this meant more time in the workshop than on the road, undermining the very touring lifestyle the bike was supposed to embody. The suspension design, though functional on paper, struggled to conceal the motorcycle's overall weight and persistent shortcomings. Each bump or crack in the pavement transferred directly through the chassis, turning what should have been a smooth cruise into a tiring ordeal. Long journeys left riders feeling sore and fatigued, hardly the freedom they had imagined when purchasing the machine. Outdated ergonomics compounded the issue, forcing many into awkward positions that only added discomfort. A number of owners sought relief through aftermarket modifications, but these fixes often introduced new headaches, including warped components, misaligned parts, or reduced handling stability. Instead of spending weekends enjoying carefree miles, riders frequently found themselves caught in an exhausting cycle of costly upgrades, simply hoping to recover lost comfort and reliability. The legacy of this machine is not one of triumph, but of hard-learned lessons. For Harley enthusiasts, the FLH 1200 Shovelhead represents the era when ambition and tradition collided with the harsh reality of poor execution. It is remembered less for carrying riders across states and more for sitting idle, awaiting the next round of repairs. The next motorcycle in this countdown shows how even in the modern era, bold styling and powerful engines cannot always rescue a design that misses the mark. Number 3. Harley-Davidson FXD R114. There are moments when a machine is introduced with promises of redefining an entire segment, and the FXDR carried exactly that kind of weight. Designed with inspiration from drag racing, it was meant to bridge raw performance with cruiser comfort. On paper, the specifications looked formidable. The FXDR carried the Milwaukee 8 114 engine, displacing 1,868 cubic centimeters, producing 90 horsepower and 119 pound-feet of torque. Dual front discs with a single rear disc provided braking, and riders often noted the optional anti-lock braking system was essential for controlling its straight-line power. An aluminum swing arm paired with inverted front forks and a coil-over rear shock shaped its aggressive stance. Wet weight reached 668 pounds, while seat height measured 27.7 inches. The starting price was $18,999, though consumer feedback suggested the design failed to justify its premium cost. Those numbers suggested a motorcycle built for dominance, but numbers rarely tell the whole story. Riders quickly discovered that while the engine delivered a strong surge of torque in a straight line, the rest of the package did not keep up with expectations. The wide 240mm rear tire, chosen for visual drama, made cornering feel heavy and awkward. Many found the seating position too aggressive for long rides, with stretched handlebars and forward controls forcing the rider into an uncomfortable stance. For seasoned owners accustomed to touring models, the ergonomics felt more like punishment than thrill. A second layer of disappointment came from the way the FXDR positioned itself in the marketplace. Priced near $19,000, it competed against both domestic rivals and imported power cruisers that offered more balance between speed and comfort. Riders looking for a pure drag-style machine often leaned toward lighter, sportier options, while those interested in Harley tradition viewed the futuristic styling as too much of a departure. The sharp bodywork and unconventional lines were meant to attract a younger audience, but they alienated many of the loyal base. The result was a bike without a clear home, too radical for the traditionalist and too compromised for the performance-focused buyer. Reliability quickly became a central concern for riders who put serious miles on the machine. Heat management was one of the most common complaints, as the large displacement motor generated intense warmth around the rider's legs, particularly during summer traffic jams and long urban commutes. Owners also pointed out that exhaust components tended to discolor or fail prematurely, while certain suspension parts showed weakness under aggressive riding conditions or repeated long-distance touring. Many were forced to invest in aftermarket upgrades simply to maintain consistency and confidence on the road. Instead of inspiring the sense of unstoppable power expected from a heavyweight cruiser, the motorcycle too often left riders questioning its long-term durability whenever it was pushed beyond casual use. The story of the FXDR reflects the challenges of balancing heritage with experimentation. It was an attempt to create a new lane for Harley, but its identity crisis prevented it from resonating deeply with either end of the audience. Today, it stands as a reminder that even with a mighty motor and bold design, a motorcycle must connect with its riders in both form and function. The next entry on this list shifts away from failed innovation and looks at how touring excess can just as easily undermine reliability when expectations are set sky high. We're getting close to the top of the list, and the final bikes are where history gets painful. Before we reveal them, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell. That way you'll never miss the deep dives, hidden stories, and hard truths behind Harley's legacy. Number 2. Harley-Davidson Electra Glide Ultra Classic. Among the modern touring motorcycles meant to symbolize comfort and reliability, the Electra Glide Ultra Classic from 2015 stands out for the wrong reasons. Marketed as a flagship tourer, it carried the weight of expectation from riders who demanded long-distance confidence. Powering long-distance ambition, the Electra Glide carried a twin-cooled high-output twin-cam 103 engine displacing 1,690 cubic centimeters, producing 86 horsepower and 102 pound-feet of torque. Dual floating front discs paired with a rear disc and reflex-linked anti-lock braking system offered confidence, yet many riders voiced frustration over clutch failures and overheating troubles. Built for comfort yet weighed down by compromises, the bike used conventional front forks with dual rear shocks, bringing wet weight to 873 pounds. Seat height measured 29.1 inches, while the starting price reached $24,149. Consumer Reports praised highway comfort, but criticized persistent recalls and repair costs. On the surface, this appeared to be the ultimate touring solution. It offered expansive storage, a 6.5-gallon fuel tank, ergonomic seating, and a premium infotainment system for entertainment and navigation. Yet reality revealed cracks beneath the surface. The most infamous problem centered on the clutch system, which had a disturbing tendency to disengage unexpectedly. This meant riders sometimes found themselves unable to shift gears mid-ride, a nightmare scenario on highways or in crowded traffic. The result was a massive recall that shook confidence in the machine and left dealerships scrambling to perform emergency repairs. Cooling issues added another layer of frustration. The water pump design often led to premature failures, causing overheating during long rides. Mechanics noted how this problem cascaded into vibration and stress on other components, turning what should have been a smooth cross-country trip into an unpredictable and costly ordeal. Tire alignment issues were also reported, with irregular wear forcing more frequent replacements than riders anticipated. Given the sheer weight of the Electra Glide, this only amplified costs and headaches, especially for riders who relied on consistent performance across thousands of miles. Despite carrying a high price tag, quality control on the 2015 edition was inconsistent at best. Electrical problems frustrated many owners, ranging from infotainment malfunctions to lighting failures that appeared without warning. The boombox system, heavily promoted as a luxury touring feature, often glitched in daily use, leaving riders disappointed on long trips where reliability mattered most. These troubles added to the already well-documented clutch and cooling problems, reinforcing the belief that shortcuts were taken during development. Even longtime Harley enthusiasts, normally quick to defend flaws, admitted this particular model was hard to justify, especially when competitors delivered equally capable touring machines with fewer faults, steadier electronics, and stronger reputations for long-term dependability. The Electra Glide Ultra Classic should have been a crowning achievement, yet instead it became a case study in how even small design flaws can undermine an entire platform. Riders who invested heavily in this model often faced unplanned repair bills and the stress of wondering whether the next ride would be interrupted by failure. The next motorcycle on this list takes the conversation away from one single model and into an entire era, a period that nearly dismantled Harley's reputation altogether. Number 1. The AMF era, Harley-Davidsons. Few chapters in American motorcycling history are remembered with such infamy as the years when American Machine and Foundry controlled Harley-Davidson. From 1969 through 1981, the brand nearly collapsed under the weight of poor quality, rushed production, and a reputation that went from iconic to embarrassing almost overnight. During this period, engines often leaked, components loosened mid-ride, and electrical failures stranded riders in conditions where dependability mattered most. Born in the 1970s, a typical shovelhead engine displaced 1,200 cubic centimeters, producing 60 horsepower and 65 pound-feet of torque. Braking was limited to basic single discs, while suspension relied on standard telescopic forks and dual shocks. Riders soon discovered that constant oil leaks overshadowed the engine's modest touring capability. Heavy and often unwieldy, wet weight regularly exceeded 700 pounds, with seat height averaging 29 inches. Prices ranged from $2,800 to just over $4,000, which seemed affordable at the time. Consumer Reports warned, however, that bargain pricing often meant unreliable craftsmanship and high maintenance demands. The problem stretched far beyond mechanics and into the very culture of the factory floor. Assembly line workers later revealed how strict production quotas were valued above quality control, allowing motorcycles to leave plants with incomplete welds, mismatched paint panels, and engines tuned so poorly that they required adjustments before a rider could even enjoy the first miles. The once proud American brand suffered mockery from both rivals and its own supporters, earning the cruel nickname Hardly Drivable. That label echoed in workshops, roadside repair stops, and countless rider gatherings across the country, serving as a constant reminder of what had been lost. Even the most loyal customers admitted deep frustration as oil leaks became routine. Starter clutches failed again and again, and dealers struggled to keep basic replacement parts in stock. For anyone purchasing an AMF-era motorcycle, the price of admission was not just the bike itself, but the unavoidable expectation of continual repairs. For many, that meant the dream of Harley-Davidson ownership transformed quickly into a heavy burden that they regretted carrying. The image of the brand suffered equally. Riders accustomed to Harley's heritage of durability now found themselves humiliated on highways and back roads as their motorcycles sputtered, overheated, or broke down entirely. Meanwhile, Japanese manufacturers like Honda and Kawasaki capitalized on the chaos by delivering reliable, affordable alternatives that built trust with disillusioned buyers. While Harley struggled to explain away failure after failure, these rivals quietly dominated the American market with motorcycles that simply worked. This stark contrast created the most severe reputational wound in Harley's history. Yet within this collapse was the foundation for a comeback. By 1981, the management buyout that freed Harley from American Machine and Foundry's control marked a turning point. Determined to reclaim trust, the company focused on innovation, introducing the Evolution engine later in the decade, which restored performance and reliability to the lineup. The lessons of those dark years reshaped Harley-Davidson into a more resilient brand, reminding riders and executives alike that loyalty must be earned with quality. The AMF era remains the lowest point, not for one model, but for an entire generation of motorcycles that nearly destroyed a legacy. It stands as a reminder that heritage can only survive if it is backed by performance and dependability. As the countdown closes, these years remain the single most painful lesson in Harley-Davidson's history. That wraps up our countdown of Harley's worst-selling models. If you found value here, hit like to show your support and drop a comment sharing your own Harley story. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss future deep dives into motorcycle history, hidden flops, and legendary machines.